Welcome to another episode of the Afterlife podcast. This is your host, Pooja Chilukuri. I am deeply delighted and honored to be in conversation with Reverend Bill today. I was going to start this episode by reading a huge bio, an introduction for Reverend Bill, and I decided to ditch that and just speak from my heart. Reverend Bill's life has inspired me, even though I've known him for only about 2 weeks, through stalking him on all his work on the internet. And yet, what I found is that it's a life that has over 7 decades, rich experience, three NDEs, a host of supernatural experiences, a life that has been deeply entrenched in service. I was just telling Reverend Bill earlier, you just don't stop. He has a really busy schedule today, and he's going to take off and be going to the Czech Republic soon. He's been a Vietnam War veteran. He's been awarded several medals, including the Purple Heart. And I just wanted to appreciate him so much for his service to our country, but also the labor of love that his life has been. He's an advocate for veterans, and he's also been, on the suicide hotline. He counsels, he teaches, he's just conducted a healing workshop. I can go on and on. And I am so grateful that he has taken the time in his day to come speak with us. Thank you so much, Reverend Bill.
Well, it's my honor to talk to you, actually. Being an Irishman, I never turned down a chance to talk. It's the one thing about the Irish. They always have a story. They if they're not talking, then they're dead. That's about it. Or asleep, maybe. But they talk in their sleep as well. Uh,
So,
anyway, yeah, so this life has been this is my 80th year of life. And so I'm just at that stage you might call middle age. Don't let my body fool you. I'm still a child. They keep trying to tell me I'm an adult, but I refuse to become an adult. I still live in this world of dreams and the beauty and all the unrealistic stuff like peace and if things are good in the world, and I don't get involved in the negativity.
mhm,
And I don't get involved in all the complaining and why me and how come this is happening. And to me, life is basically about love. That's the only thing that's real, the only thing.
mhm,
Um, to me, people talk about what's God, who's
mhm.
God, what's God. There's all these things. Well, we're made in God's image, whatever that means. I really narrowed down to a basic thing. To me, we're one, meaning everything is. There's only one. There's just that one consciousness.
Mhm.
God is it's his consciousness, no matter what you look at, what you think, what you feel, what you write, what you say, where you go, what exists, what's been created, not created. It's all within this one consciousness. And we're a part of that. And our ego makes us think that we are separate from that. But we're here. God is there instead of it's all encompassed in one. So to me, God is the lowest and the biggest denominator, depending on how you look at it. It's all love. Everything that ever has been created, will be created, has been created, or is created right now. Everything's been touched and embraced by the energy of love. That
Mhm.
love is God itself. And whatever name you want to attach to, if you want to say God is Jesus, God is Buddha, God, whatever you think. God's this old guy with a white beard, it, whatever you think is okay because it's all God. So there's nothing you can worship as God that's not God. It's it's like people laugh at people, they talk to their plants. Well, plants are also this one consciousness.
Mhm.
Plants and animals and the sky and the ocean and us, no matter what race, creed, part of the world we're from, it's all one.
Mhm.
So when you start, it's like my first trip to India. Okay, since we'll go to your home territory here.
Yes, please.
All right. My first trip to India, and I'm wandering in the Himalayas with this one traveler, a friend of mine, Vietnam vet, and we're tired, and we're hiking down this hill, and we see this temple, and it's a Buddhist temple. No parking lot, it's just a temple, and there's some trails going to it. It's not like you pull into a parking lot, and, this is really out in the boonies, but it's a beautiful temple. When you go inside, It's clean, and it's got this guy with a straw broom sweeping, and everything. And then they got like an altar, and of course, it's got a big Buddha there and everything. And I come in and I'm tired and I'm old. I'm not going to sit there cross-legged and, there's no chairs, there's no stools, there's nada, nothing. So I sit there and I stretch my legs out. Of course, my legs, they're stretched out towards God. In my mind, and this guy comes, he starts beating me on the head with this broom. He's chastising me. Don't put your feet, you're insulting God. You put your feet towards the altar, and all this kind of stuff. And I look at him, I go, dear sir, show me where God is not, and I'll put my feet there. And he got just frustrated, like, well, wait, just show me what direction God is not, right? It's all God, no matter where I put my feet. So that was kind of my first experience in India, and we talked about it earlier before we started recording, and I went to Calcutta I picked up these little pearls of wisdom everywhere. I went every region of India. I mean, from the desert to Calcutta to, going up to the border by Pakistan, the Golden Temple. All these things is a different flavor. It's kind of like if if God had an ice cream shop that was spirituality, right? Here you got vanilla, strawberry, there you got Hindu, you got this, you got that. Every part of India is a different flavor.
Mhm.
It's the same, it's all ice cream,
Mhm.
but it's all different flavors. And people get hung up on the flavor. It's all ice cream. It's all God, right? So that was like my big introductory thing going to India. And it took me 58 and a half years to get there. Uh,
Wow.
I I had a near-death experience when I was
Mhm.
8.5 years old, and I was in the hospital for a year. And when I was in that hospital, I kept dreaming about and wanting the desire to go to Babaji's cave, which
Mhm.
was, autobiography of Yogi, where Yogananda talks about Babaji's cave, and I was read that
Mhm.
before I went in the hospital, and so I had that vision of that. That's where I wanted to go. 50 years later, 50 years to the exact date that I had my near-death experience at 8.5. At 58 and a half, I ended up at Babaji's cave. Wonderful experience. That's another whole show. Um, so I made subsequent trips to India. I reached a point now, I haven't been back to India since 2022, maybe, maybe, yeah, something around. It's been 2 or 3 years I haven't been back there. And it was weird because every time I went over there, I went over to the cheapest airfare. I'd get there, I'd stay at the cheapest hotels. And people don't understand, for $25, $20, $15, I got some places that had actual bed and toilet. I mean, it wasn't totally crazy, but it wasn't first class. But this last trip, being much older and going through a bunch of stuff, this guy offered me a trip, and the Blue Lotus Foundation wanted me to come over
Mhm.
and talks. And I go, I don't want to fly from California to Chennai. And, that's a lot of travel all around India and everything. And I said, my legs swell up. I'm uncomfortable. And so finally they bought me first class tickets on Qatar Airlines. I had a little compartment, I could sleep and everything.
Mhm.
And so I went over and everything was first class. And I came back and I'm going, well, that was really nice. I got first class. It was must have been a desire. But I had just as much of a spiritual adventure going, staying at ashrams and sleeping on dirt floors and
Mhm.
in caves. And so it's all a state of mind. And so as I've traveled around the world the last 25 years, I've been retired. Um, I've been running into people. It's always about people. Places you meet people, they've traveled. Oh, they're jet setters. They go on cruises. They go on tours on the river. They go on train rides. They're always traveling. They go to Rome. And what have they really gained? A lot of, you know, selfie moments where they could take a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower or something, right? Or famous places. But they haven't gained wisdom. It's got a lot of mileage on them. Oh, I've been to Israel. I've been to Egypt. Okay, great.
Mhm.
What wisdom did you take away from that?
Mhm.
So I found the last 25 years of my travels going back to Vietnam, where I fought and meeting the people, actually meeting the people I fought against. uh, going to China, going to multiple trips to India, all over Europe and South America, not as a tourist. I'd go with no agenda, there's nothing laid out, there's no bus rides. It's just I show up and I let people kind of determine where I go, and I go someplace and I take this crossroads and I go this way, and so I've kind of spent 25 years what looks like wandering. In truth, it's almost like a predestined path. It's an emotional, spiritual journey, literally. Now you're reading my book, uh,
Hmm. I am. I'm
Alchemy of the Warrior's Heart,
I'm
which
just gonna hold it up. Yes, Alchemy of a Warrior's Heart.
which is basically you read that book, you go, oh, this is a spiritual journey. It's a journey, literally. And
Mhm.
as you start from the beginning of that book and you start going, you say, you don't know where this is leading to, but after you're through stories and you get halfway, you go, wait a minute, these all connect somehow. And so at the end of the book, you go, oh, it all connected. It was all an energy path. It
Mhm.
it was going someplace.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I'm doing my life. And right now, I right after COVID, when everybody was home and I couldn't travel, and I was doing I started doing YouTube videos, which is kind of funny because I didn't want to do YouTube videos. I mean, I was going out doing, I'd go to India. I've talked to some audiences over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people. I've talked to big audiences, a lot of places, and small audiences all over the place. But I go on YouTube video and I started doing videos. I just no, yeah, no editing, no rehearsing. I just click record. I talk and tell something, and I click it off. No edits, no rehearsals, no notes, no nothing. And I
Mhm.
post it. Very amateurs, not very professional. And yet, during COVID, I ended up with almost 1.5 million views.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, I couldn't have talked to that many people out there in person.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't to be.
Yeah.
So then when COVID got over, I had a dream, and it was very, very heavy, real quote unquote real life dream
Mhm.
that I'm I'm getting orders basically. Time to get out of the house, get out there, do workshops, lectures, and talk about self-love, self-healing, self-forgiveness, and gratitude. Basically, teaching people how to heal themselves at all the different levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically, with no plan, no outline, no information, just go do it. And so, following my intuition, I just went and I rented a temple in Santa Cruz, California. Kicked it off there because I knew some people there, and I spent hundreds of dollars for this temple to rent it, and and I refused to charge anybody any money for going, and so I started doing free workshops, and I'd rent churches, I'd pay for flights and everything. And what's really interesting after all this, about 3 years, 4 years now of doing this, you would think I'd be in debt. You'd think I'd gone in the hole. Going
Mhm.
around the world, never charging a penny for anything,
Mhm.
totally free. Not even a suggested donation. To me, that's like code word. Yeah, you got to pay money.
Mhm.
So I don't want that. I want people just to come and be free. And I have never lost money. I've broken even, and I have enough now to. I always have enough left over to just pay for the next adventure. So I'm just paying forward. So I'm not quite behind. I got enough to go to the next adventure, and so that's what I'm doing. And I started off the first year, and I had some good sized crowds and did, about 100 workshops. And I'm going, no, this ain't the answer. My answer now is I need to go out there and find spiritually evolved people, high revolution of energy, high
Mhm.
frequencies,
Mhm.
and because I'm gonna be 80 my next birthday, right? Let's get real. I'm not gonna be around much longer. So, but I've learned stuff. What a shame would it be for me to leave and not pass this on to others?
Mhm.
And I don't want to go out there and it's a self-selected process. I'm not recruiting anybody. I'm going, if you feel drawn to this, then come, because next year, 2026, I'm going to start doing webinars, live workshops, uh, more videos, maybe even some more books on the subject. I want to pass this information on to people that want to be doing what I'm doing, teaching
Mhm.
love. Now, uh, you can call it anything you want, and people, oh, you should trademark something and have this program. And I go, now, even in my books, when you read the books, because my publisher gets upset with me and other people, because in the books I'll say, yeah, it's copyrighted, but if you want to use it, go ahead, just let me know. End of story. I don't care how you use it. You know, use it, steal it. It's the information. And so I look at myself not as a teacher, not as a guru, uh, more of a not the messenger, a messenger. And I'm looking for other people out there to become messengers.
Mhm.
And what I'm trying to teach people is all healing is self-healing.
Mhm.
So when a healer starts advertising themselves, and they do it, and I understand why, because people got to know what they're doing, but they'll say,
Mhm.
he's a healer and he healed me. And no, he, she doesn't matter. All healing is self-healing.
Mhm.
Your job is the quote unquote healer, if you want to call it
Mhm.
that. I call it basically just the messenger, is to connect the source with the person that needs, right? This person needs a healing. You connect them with the source. You teach them how to
Mhm.
connect. Your job is like a pipe taking the water from the lake to the sink faucet, right? I'm not the water. I'm not the person drinking the water. I didn't create the water. I'm just a conduit. And so my
Mhm.
job is to introduce people to the concept that the foundation for all spirituality, all change, all energy, all love starts with love for the self.
Mhm.
And when you start loving yourself, and then you realize, well, Reverend Bill's also saying that God and I are one. Well, what does he mean? Well, I tell you, well, when you love God. And when
Mhm.
you love God, you love you. And if you're loving you and you're loving God, then you got to love your neighbor.
Mhm.
And then you got to love your enemy. Whoa, what's going on here? Reverend Bill says you got to love everybody. Yep. You don't have to like anybody. Whole different thing. But you got to love everybody. There's a
Mhm.
huge difference between liking and loving. For
Mhm.
example, somebody abuses you, treats you terrible, cheats you. Well, you can forgive them. You don't tell them they're forgiven. You forgive them. You release it. It's all inner you. It's your thing. You forgive them. You let it go. You love them. You let it go. But you don't like them, and so you can hang around and get abused anymore. And it's a little egotistical to go up to somebody that hasn't asked and says, "Well, I forgive you." "I forgive you for what? Who do you think you are, right? So, um, so I'm trying to get people onto this thing about self-love, self-forgiveness, and the third element, which is gratitude. And people
Mhm.
don't quite understand the gratitude because, well, I'm grateful. I got a great job. I got a beautiful spouse. I got get good kids. I got money. I got health. I go, well, what if you didn't have money? What if you didn't have health? What if you didn't have a spouse? What if you just had a divorce? What if you got cancer? I'm telling you, be grateful for every facet of your life. Everything that's happened in your life, you have manifested through your
Mhm.
thoughts, through your action, through your karma, through your desires. So it's all you've attracted it. Now there's some great souls out there that they will sacrifice their life for other people's energy and other people's things. Think of Jesus or whatever you want to think of. There's people that have suffered that obviously you look at it and say, well, it was karma. The guy didn't deserve that. Well, there are some individuals at a higher level that will take on pain and suffering of others. But don't start thinking that's you. 99.99% of this is all us. We brought it on. We've contracted it. We've we've agreed to it somehow at some level. And so when we get diseases, we get injuries, we have things happen to us that appear to be negative. There should be no why me. There should be no uh, 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 feeling sorry for yourself or, you know, no. If you accept everything in your life as perfect, everything happens for a reason. Just because you do not understand the reason doesn't make it not so. Because you don't know, it could have been 3 lifetimes ago or 100 lifetimes ago, so you did something and finally catching up. Karma finally catches up. Karma is a bitch, right? It catches you eventually. But I also believe not just karma, I also believe in divine grace,
Mhm.
meaning by applying those things in your life that are the opposite of what you've done. Let's say you were cruel to animals, and now this lifetime you're helping animals and helping cure people, and all kinds of just the opposite actions. You can lessen your karma. It's part of paying back, but you always have a little bit of karma there. So when things happen to you, don't complain. And I tell people, everything happens. Don't look at it as a lesson because that's like a punishment. Oh, learn your lessons. Look at everything that happens to you as a potential gift. Your job is just to unwrap what happened. Like I've been fighting cancer since 1979. For those that follow my stories and watch my videos and stuff, I've had, well, just in the last 3.5, 4 years, I've had over 300 and some stitches in the face, you know, cutting off my nose several times and top of my head cut off and forehead removed. And I mean, just a bunch of ugly stuff. I won't even show you pictures, but a bunch of ugly stuff. This face has been mutilated. And yet, after each surgery, 2 or 3 weeks later, I look like this, no matter how awful it looks, because I practice self-love. Stitches heal. Scar. I don't know if you can see the remnants by the side. I don't know. I got my hands backwards here. You see that line that goes up there,
Mhm.
but that goes all the way up to the top, all the way down to here. It's in the same way, both sides of the face, there's stitches all the way down. And I had tumors removed from under the eye sockets and almost lost the eyes, but I had big tumors in there. So I just had some simple surgery for me, simple stuff. I had cancer on the eyelid just 2 months ago. Taking you know how thin the eyelid is? Getting rid of the cancer on that thin of a space. Yeah, that's a workout. It's anyway, but no matter what happened, I always embraced it. I always looked at it as well, Now when I talk about healing, I got all these stories. I go, well, here's my experience, not a third-hand story from somebody else. Here's my experience. Boom, boom, this happens, this heals. This happens, this beautiful thing happens. There is a divine purpose in all. And eventually people will get to a point where they stop complaining, stop blaming. I mean, good God, I bet people 90 some years old, they're still complaining about how their parents treated them when they were kids. I'm going, when are you going to forgive them?
Mhm.
They've been dead 50, 60 years and you're still complaining about them. I mean, move on. People have to realize that every decision that you've made in your life, that is your responsibility, nobody else's. Oh, they made me do this. They made me sad. They made me that. Nobody makes you sad. Nobody makes you angry. Your choice. That's why you can find people having the same exact exterior experience, like being in a prisoner of war camp, let's say. And somebody comes out and they're defeated, they're just bitter, and somebody else is positive and it's optimistic and same kind of environment, but
Mhm.
they choose to handle that experience.
Mhm.
So my job is to go out there and try to wake people up. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Reverend Bill, that is, I don't have words. Even when I was reading your book, I was speechless. And you might wonder who talks while reading a book. But my mind talks, right? When we're reading, we're judging, our mind is talking. My mind was just blank. I was just page after page of your stories, the miracles, the all the supernatural experiences. But the thing that stood out to me most is what you're talking about right now. It was your health challenges and how those, you navigated. And I thought, well, that's the biggest miracle, because you yourself are the miracle. having that light in your soul and practicing it. And I know that one of the things that I read on your website, your mission to help people connect with God or divine. Why do you think that's important?
Well, first off, what's the question? I'll throw this out to you. What do you think the main question people ask me? You don't have to answer that, but just keep that in the back of your mind.
Mhm.
The main question that spiritual seeking people ask me. I mean, not Joe Blow at the baseball game, right? I mean, real seekers. They want to know, why am I here?
Yeah.
Why am I here? Reverend Bill, why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my dharma? As they would say in India, right? What's my agenda? What am I supposed to do? And I try to tell people it's more simple than you think. It's really just about love and service. And that's one and the same. If,
Mhm.
if you're if you're doing something out of love and service, it's love, it's service. You can't separate the two. When you serve others with love, it could be being a school teacher, it could be raising children, it could be working in a store and being really good with customer service and making everybody in the store feel good when they come in. It could be, you're a plumber, and you're fixing somebody's, whatever you do it with love, do it the best you can. All work is divine. There's no shame in dirty work or hard work. It's all divine. And when
Mhm.
you do your job and you do it filled with love for God, that, for example, uh, there was a book that Yogananda talked about, Paramahansa Yogananda, and he told his monks to read it. It's called Practicing the Presence, about Brother Lawrence, this
Mhm.
Catholic monk. He was a lowly monk. I mean, they thought he was dumb, and he didn't get to do all the sermons and the preaching and the counseling, and didn't get to listen to the congregation coming in, and when they've had masses and stuff, he would be fixing breakfast or cleaning the toilets or out in the garden, doing the vegetables and pulling the weeds, and this abbot was there, and he says, I've been here 17 years or whatever it was. And all of us are doing all these neat things every day, lighting incense, doing these ceremonies, speaking in Latin, getting really into this thing. And the only guy that's happy in the whatever you call the group of monks together, I guess whatever their group was, their monastery. The only person that was happy was the guy that didn't participate in any of this stuff. They just ignored him. And so the abbot brought him in and asked him, well, how come you're always happy? How come you're always pleasant? How come you're always not complaining? And he told them, he says, well, while you guys are spending a certain time every day for prayer, certain time for meditation in a certain place, like you go to the church, go to the altar, that's where you do prayer and meditation, and then you leave, and then your mind is elsewhere. He says, cleaning the toilets. I do it, I clean them for Jesus.
Mhm.
I pull weeds for Jesus, for God. I cook for the love of God. God is eating this food, and I do all the service for you because God is you. So it goes this whole thing that everything he does in his life, he doesn't need to go to the church, doesn't need to go to the altar,
Mhm.
doesn't need a special time, special place, doesn't have to burn incense, doesn't have to have a rosary, because he's in 100% communication with the divine through his love and service.
Mhm.
And so the abbot was impressed with that and made him write a journal. Somebody journaled for him and they wrote it down and it became a book. But basically, the essence of it was just practice love and service.
Mhm.
That's the secret. And that's what I'm trying to teach people.
Mhm.
So you're here and your purpose is to love and serve. And
Mhm.
there's so many ways to do that. Like, well, was it, you can have your own business. You can work for somebody else. It doesn't matter. And when you're working for somebody else, if you always think you're working for that guy, that boss,
Mhm.
don't like the boss, well, then you're working and you're unhappy and you're never going to. But if you take wherever you're working and you look at it as working for the divine,
Mhm.
God is the boss. Forget this person's body.
Mhm.
You do everything to please God. If you're working for God, what job would you do? That's the kind of worker you become. That's the kind of manager you become. That's the kind of custodian you become. That's the kind of whatever job it is. The carpenter, you're building a house. No, you're building it for God. You're building everything for God. You're cleaning for God. So if everything in your life is done for the love of God, then it doesn't matter whatever you do. It's a beautiful dharma. It has divine purpose. Now,
Mhm.
some of us, we have to take a look and say, well, what talents are we given? And people, I got no, no, everybody's got some talent. I don't care if you can play a ukulele or you can sing, you can dance, you're an athlete, you're a great teacher, whatever it is. Well, take your talents and give your talents to God. So
Mhm.
whatever it is, I happen to be a Irishman and Irish like to talk. So what do? I talk, right? So when I'm talking to you and I'm talking on this video, there's an unseen audience out there of connectiveness. We're all the one. So when
Mhm.
I'm talking on the screen, because I see you and I see me, no, this is being watched by others in the future.
Mhm.
And so the essence of my energy, I hope they pick up on because it's for all of those. And what's really odd is, since I've changed my attitude about how I do these videos, I get every month, I don't know, a few hundred. I get thousands of emails, but I get a few hundred every month that tell me that they watched a video and they got physically, mentally, or spiritually healed watching a video or
Mhm.
reading my books.
Mhm.
And I'm going, really? They didn't even have to go in person to meet me. It's like, so it's always about the energy. And so even
Mhm.
though you're doing these YouTube videos and you put them on YouTube, and no, those people that are destined to find it, whether it's 29 people or 29,000 or a million, it doesn't matter. The right people, the ones that needed to hear that message, will find it. Because I get people that they go, they went to sleep and they were on their computer and they went to sleep somehow and they woke up a couple hours later. And then there's my video that they didn't know who I was. This is true. I mean, this happened several times. They're watching my video and they're going, she says, I would have never looked you up. I mean, Reverend Bill, I'm living in India in particular. I'm not looking for a reverend in America, but the philosophy is exactly what I got here in India. What's going on here? So, or I had a question and I wake up and there's this video playing, or somebody sends me a link to your video or something, or I find your book or whatever. The old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And in the
Mhm.
modern world, the teacher could be a video, could be a book, could be an actual
Mhm.
teacher, mentor.
Mhm.
And when people fail to realize that some of our best teachers are the people that we would never recognize as teachers, they're our enemies. Our enemies are very blunt. They'll tell you exactly what they think you're doing wrong.
Mhm.
Sometimes we should listen and say, well, what do they see that, that my friends are afraid to tell me, maybe what they're saying is 90% wrong, but maybe it's 10% right, or it's 1% right. Your job is to figure out what part of that percentage you need to look at and address. So anytime I get a criticism, I don't just deny it. I take a look at it and think, well, in somebody's mind, something was stirred here.
Mhm.
So maybe it's only 1% my fault, but I should look at it anyway and examine it. And if it's not, it's not. But if it is, I'd be foolish to take criticism as always negative. I look at criticism, having been an actor at one time, amateur, of course, having been an actor at one time, the first time you're on the stage and this director's yelling and screaming at you, and you're going, what? Oh, do that, and after a while, when the play is over, you realize that all that you went through with the director made you a better performer. It,
Mhm.
that person was pulling the best out of you by doing that to you, right? So I look at my enemies the same way. I go, wait a minute. When I was an actor, I looked at these directors as being mean to me, right? What they're saying, you're stiff, you're walking terrible, it's bad speech, right? And then I started realizing that God is the director and he uses all
Mhm.
these people and you should listen because ultimately everything that comes your way is for your spiritual evolution.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Reverend Bill, I'm glad I'm recording this because I will have to go back and, you know, relearn some of these things that you're talking about. But I do have a question, and I am shifting gears just a little bit because I am reading your book. And the thing that drew me to your book and your memoir, your first book also has the word warrior in it. Why did you pick that word?
Well, first off, you go to the first book, you realize that I was in war.
Okay.
So the warrior has that aspect. A warrior,
Mhm.
literally, I was in combat. I was blown up. I was shot by an AK-47 in the heart. Been in helicopter crashes, almost captured. Yeah, there's that whole thing. But to me, it's the warrior spirit. It's
Mhm.
because you could be this strong single mother that just survived a divorce and you got your children. And I'm looking at her as a spiritual warrior because she's going to be successful no matter what. Nothing's going to get her down. She's here. And see, it's not a war with people necessarily.
Mhm.
It's a war between light and dark in
Mhm.
yourself to start off with. So you're fighting the darkness. You're capturing and trying to enhance the light within you through meditation, prayer, and all this other stuff. But there's always that battle with the darkness, with our darker sides. And as you elevate yourself with higher frequencies caused by years of meditation, let's say, practice, caused by, vegetarian diet will bring your level up a little bit. All these different things bring your frequency, your vibration of who you are up higher. As you grow and become really strong, the darkness is coming after you. You're a threat to the darkness. So you can't just go around and think, oh, everything's all good. I'm a good guy. Everything's gonna be okay. No, 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 no. Take a look at some of the greatest spiritual beings in history, and they always got somebody coming after them.
Mhm.
Always some darkness coming after them because you're a threat to the darkness. So when I talk about spiritual warriors, I'm talking about people, especially when I meet single parents. You know,
Mhm.
that's that warrior spirit. I ain't quitting. I ain't giving up. I'm gonna achieve. I'm gonna make it. And that's it. We're doing this, right? So spiritual warrior is an attitude, but I definitely take the aspect of the warrior, meaning one at battle with the darkness,
Mhm.
whatever that may be.
Mhm.
There's a literal thing that some people read my first book. Oh yeah, you're talking about, war, Vietnam and all. No, it doesn't matter. Because to me, I know some women warriors that are much greater than the veterans. There's a greater battle between good and evil.
Mhm.
And the difference between giving up and getting through. There's a difference. Things happen. It's just, it's like this lady. She was going. When you were in Hawaii, I don't want to give her away her name, but you were in Hawaii, and I was at your healing thing, and then you told me you looked in my eyes and you told me that don't worry, things will get better. They do get better. She says that was like a couple months ago. She says, and then I lost my job and I'm doing this. She lists all this garbage that's happening to her life, right? And I wrote her back. I said, that's why I told you that. I says, don't give up. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
I told her, I said, in India, there's that old expression, you know, in the end, everything works out. If it
Yes,
worked out yet, then it's not the end,
it's
right?
not the.
But in the end, we're all destined for the same future.
Mhm.
It's it's all the same place. Eventually, everybody's destined to wake up. That's why this whole thing about, well, I'm going to get out of here this lifetime. I'm not going to come back for another lifetime. Like you're going to beat people's place. It's only now. All time is now. So nobody's beating anybody to enlightenment or beating anybody to heaven or wherever. It's we're all together. It's all
Mhm.
one consciousness. How can that part of the consciousness get there and this other part doesn't? It's all going on simultaneously. So, Pooja, in your future, if you could just peel back the layers of dimensions, you're a Buddha. Uh, you're already there, except you're recognizing your egos need to be in this particular now, and you're realizing your personal history. Therefore, as you realize this history,
Mhm.
recognize this now, this time, this place, this creation, and your ego says, I am puja. I am
Mhm.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
And in truth, there is no puja. There's only us, we,
Mhm.
one.
Mhm.
There's no separation between me and you.
Mhm.
When people start thinking they're separate from each other, well, I'm separate from them, they're different than me. Then I can be prejudiced against them. I can be a racist. I can shoot them. I can
Mhm.
invade their country. I can do all these things. I can talk nasty about them because they're not like me. They're different.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, we're all one. And that changes everything, changes it all.
Yeah. This is a message we really need right now, Reverend Bill. You know, the climate that we're in right now of division, so much of it that we see. So thank you. Thank you very much. And I do want to say to those that are watching and listening that Reverend Bill, all his near-death experience stories, we didn't talk about it today on this show because he has spoken in over, I think, over 1,000 podcasts. And I will have the links to that in the show notes to one or two of those. So you're very welcome to check out those stories as well. And Reverend Bill, if you're okay to talk about it, you know, when you talk about love and forgiveness, you're coming from a place of deep practice. You're not just teaching this stuff. Like when I was reading this book, or I may have heard it on another radio show, I'm not sure, but even when you were in Vietnam, you had love for those people. And I don't know how you did it because I know there was a miracle story of, you know, there was these 30 kids that you ended up saving because you refused to shoot. So, I mean, if you want to share that.
Yeah, it's which is really interesting because I was having a conversation a couple nights ago with a young lady that was dating a guy that used to be a sniper in the military, killing people. No remorse, no feeling bad about it. Get an order, you just shoot somebody. I was like, yeah, well, don't you understand that? I go, No, because if you read my book, I didn't follow orders always. I refused orders. Ultimately, you have to follow your heart. You have to ultimately follow intuition and then divine order. Um, I had a situation where the enemy was misidentified, and I was ordered to use my machine gun from the helicopter and fire down at this group of people marching down a road. It looked like the enemy. We're not worse where they're supposed to be. I mean, it looked legit order. And I told them no. And I was threatened with a court martial. I was threatened with death penalty, life in jail for not following orders, and yet I didn't follow orders. And then turned around and we found out short time thereafter that it was 30 something children and a Catholic priest marching down a road to a vegetable garden. They're all kids. So that's a very short version of the story because it got very dramatic. But I was willing to go to jail or face a firing squad for disobeying for what they charged as mutiny because my gunner didn't want to do it either. Once I didn't do it, he says, "Well, I trust Reverend Bill," or it wasn't Reverend Bill. I trust Mac, McDonald, right? I trust Mac. If he says there's a problem, I trust him. I've flown with him. So what was interesting is I saved 30 something lives that day and changed the course of history, literally. Because had I done that, that would have been a historic thing. It'd have been really a terrible news story worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it was a chance that most people, I don't know too many people, that if they're threatened with follow orders or you're going to jail or losing your life, because all they got to say, okay, I'll fire. It's your responsibility. I'll fire. And all they got to do is say, I was just following orders. Well, that didn't work for the Nazis, and it didn't work for me either. There's this following orders stuff. That's where we get in trouble in a country. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
if the president tells you to do something. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. So at some point in time, you always have to be accountable for that divine self. And
Mm-hmm.
when you picture everybody else as part of that divine self, it's all one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big hard question to decide. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
would I shoot myself? It's like, that's part of me down there. So yeah. Um, but I've had things happening in my life. I've been betrayed. People have been disloyal to me. People have, exposed my secrets. People have done all kinds of things to me. People have misused me, abused me, ignored me, to the point of my dying and everything else. So it's like, I don't give that a second thought. It's like, okay, it happens to everybody. It's like, all right, that's their problem. I mean, I'm not going to spend 70, 80 years of my life complaining about something that happened to me as a child. What's the point?
Mhm.
It's you move on, and when you have negative things happen, you always have to take a look at it and say, ah, okay, that person was a teacher. They taught me through their bad example. Now I know what not to do. And so, and then it also teaches you the power of self-love and forgiveness. There's so many good things can happen if you look at everything that happens as a gift. If you look at everything that happens as, oh my God, I was in a year in a hospital by myself and life was terrible and I had this happen to me and I had this happen to me and oh, everybody took advantage of me. And it's like, no, no.
Yeah.
When you start feeling sorry for yourself, and telling everybody about your troubles, um, you're missing the whole point of growth. You're here. You're here to do something. And so that gets down to my main person. I think you asked me before the broadcast, like, well, what got me going on this?
Yeah.
And people were waiting for an answer like, well, you had a near death experience, or you had two, three near death experience, or you had this spiritual experience, you had this, you had this. I was born, I was making up my own meditation in the crib. I was meditating as a toddler. I was doing my thing from ever. I always knew that I had a purpose. I always knew that I was here for something. And so it wasn't any incident. What you're looking at now is what you were looking at when I was a child. And well, maybe that's because I'm still a child. But it wasn't a big revelation. It was, you're here to do this. Do it. Get to work. And so a lot of people may not have that gift of coming into a lifetime and knowing, yeah, this is what I got to do. I got to go
Mhm.
through all this crap. But in the end, and in this case, everything I was doing in my life leading up to my retirement at 55 was preparing me for what I'm doing now. Public
Mhm.
speaking, counseling people.
Mhm.
Because I worked with veterans and I worked with prisoners and I
Mhm.
with the homeless and I worked with all these disadvantaged people and everything. But everything eventually that led to the point was, you know, now I just want to work with the people that are spiritually hungry.
Mhm.
There are people out there who take care of the veterans now, and there's people out there who take care of
Mhm.
the prisoners and all the rest of the stuff. And
Mhm.
any of the basic stuff, spiritual foundation, that's good. I'm happy for them. But I'm now looking for the people that are not satisfied with the spiritual basic thing. The spiritual basic thing, and most people get in this box. It's I'm this religion. I'm not getting out of it, I'm not exploring nothing else. Somebody tells me to have faith and believe. I believe, I have faith, I trust, boom, that's it. They never explore anything else. And I'm telling people, believe what happens to you, your experiences. Anything else you're told is somebody else's belief or what they've been told or their interpretation.
Mhm.
Discover who you are.
Mhm.
Religion, God has no religion. Jesus wasn't a Christian, Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, Muhammad wasn't a Muslim. And people go, and Hindus believe everything. They accept everything. It's kind of like, well, what's it's always get kind of funny because Westerners try to figure out, well, what's the Hindus? I go, yeah, it depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Everybody's got, well, there's Lord Shiva. No, there's this, there's that. And it's like, but I've not failed to find a Hindu that doesn't believe in Jesus,
Yeah.
Buddha, or Krishna. It's like, yeah, they're all good. Yeah, they're all messengers. They're all good. Very open system, but people don't understand. Oh, they're worshiping idols. They're worshiping all these weird things. No, not really.
Yeah.
People that are not too bright, some of the other people, they think, well, we'll worship it, and they lose focus on what the whole thing's about. But you talk to
Mhm.
somebody that's out there that's meditating in a cave, and he'll tell you that there's only one. That's it. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So, um, in the end, it's not about religion. It's about love. No,
Mhm.
so if love is your religion,
Mhm.
you don't need anything else. You don't need dogma. You don't need scriptures. Because let's get faith. Every scripture says that's the truth. Every scripture says they're written by God. They're all different, and everybody interprets them different.
Mhm.
So throw that out. Believe it or don't believe it. Doesn't make a difference. God don't care.
Mhm.
My question to you is, who do you love?
Mhm.
In the end, that's the only question that's going to matter. So, and I tell people, if your family's Hindu, if your family's Muslim or whatever, Christian, whatever it is, and you celebrate your family celebrates those holidays and special events, and everybody shows up for the dinners and all that stuff. Why mess that up? So it's all right. Practice it. It's okay. God don't care. You know, great. Why mess up a family relationship? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Inside, what counts? Inside, love God. Doesn't matter if you burn incense or if you pray 7 times a day. It doesn't make any difference. If you can do confession and you do the rosary, and it's all stuff.
Mhm.
So my world, I try not to convert anybody to my way of thinking. However you think, I'm happy for you. I ask, only question I got, are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. Great. End of story. Don't try to change your minds.
Mhm.
Just because I think and feel something doesn't give me the right to say this is the only way you got to believe and you got to accept this. That
Mhm.
may be my truth. I don't know what your truth is.
Mhm.
And ultimately, neither one of us knows perhaps what the real truth is. So the only real truth I believe in is love.
Mhm.
And that incorporates forgiveness.
Mhm.
If you can't really love, you have no forgiveness. But
Mhm.
if you don't love you,
Mhm.
that's that's the building blocks.
Yeah.
And if you love yourself, not egotistical love, like a
Mhm.
politician or something. I mean, truly see yourself as this divine connection,
Mhm.
one with the cosmic consciousness, one with the loving consciousness of God, and be embraced by that love, be kissed by that love. And I don't care how you express it. I in my one of my newest books, I have a story about a redwood tree. I call it Bob the Redwood Tree. People go, "What the hell story is it? You're writing about Bob, like you give a redwood tree a name." Well, I I wanted to. I was going through a nursery, plant nursery, and they were selling, redwood trees, 6 feet tall, for $75. And then over the corner was a milk carton cut, and it was filled with dirt, not even planting soil, just dirt. And it was like about this big of a redwood tree. It said giant sequoia. And it didn't have any leaves or branches or nothing, just a little stick coming up, and no price. And I picked it up, and it was like all these beautiful trees. And then I go, it was like going to the going into the animal shelter and seeing this poor little dog. Please take me home, right? And it was like, I go, hey, I'm gonna buy this. So I take it to the cashier. The cashier, there's no price on it. Nobody know where it came from. It was just in a milk carton, not official container or nothing. And then the manager comes and says, well, if you want it, what do you want to give for it? I said, how about 50 cents? So
Mhm.
took it, I brought it home. My wife, everybody looked at it like it's a stick. I just planted in my backyard. And I prayed for that tree and I talked to that tree for 35 years, grew to 130 feet. And then a windstorm came and it was really leaning. And I can't have it, smash into my neighbor's bedroom or something, in their house. And so I had to spend $4,000 to take it down to kill it. And I went out and I talked to Bob. I called, Because I used to go out and hug this tree all the time. You know, it
Mhm.
was little, I'd hug it, and then I'd hug it, and then it was really big. Redwood trees get big. You couldn't put your arms around this thing. It was like 3 people to put your arms around this tree, and it was only 35 years old. But it was 130 feet. That's a lot of growth for 35 years. So when it came time to kill it, I mean, I really looked at it like a death in the family. It was like losing a family dog or something, you know. It was,
Mhm.
and I watched it come down and then dig up the stump, and I realized that you could connect not with just people, but I was connecting with a redwood tree,
Mhm.
and there was a genuine love there.
Mhm.
And when people got their indoor plants and they're talking to them, don't laugh. Love makes things grow.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's Bob the redwood tree. I don't think I've told that story too much, but anyway, so Bob and I became real great friends, but nature, made us, I had to take him down. So
Yeah. It's really amazing to me that you shared that story, Reverend Bill, because when I was listening to you talking about love just a little bit earlier, I was thinking, man, it's not just people. We can love anything in creation. I had the thought, and I'm just so glad you shared that story. So right here is a synchronicity, I guess. Yeah. And
yeah, yeah, we can love. People don't understand this because I used to live in Hawaii. People, they love the waterfall, they love the ocean, they love the trees, they love the lava flow, they love the volcano. It's if everything is seen as God,
yeah,
loving everything.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this on air because I'm gonna sound like a crazy person. But there have been nights when I've like look at the moon and I just wanted to hug it. I was like, how beautiful are you? So I can understand.
You traveled in India, and if you go up the Himalayas, you'll talk to people, and they'll talk about the energy of the sun and all the planets, and
Hmm.
there's a life energy there, and Cirrus stars and all these things. There's a intelligent energy there. The planets have an intelligence. It's an energy, but and if you look at everything as part of the divine one consciousness, then it makes sense. It's all God.
Yeah,
There's nothing that is not God.
yeah.
So, and then that begs the question that people say, well, if everything's not God, and everything is God, then God created termites and disease and
Yeah,
cancer and the devil and darkness. And I go, yep,
yeah.
yep, it's all true. So, yeah, it's like you even got to have mercy on the devil. It's like, come on,
Yeah. Yes.
evil exists because God allows it to exist.
Yeah.
And we feed that energy by our energy. So you either
Hmm.
feed the darkness or you're feeding the light, how you live
Hmm.
your life.
Hmm.
So which one do you want to feed? That's that old Native American thing, which wolf do you want to feed, right?
Feed. Yeah. Thank you so much, Reverend Bill. I could talk to you forever. Our time has come to a close. And I do want people to be able to find your these classes that you talked about earlier. You want to train the people that want to be messengers, right? So is the best way for them to connect with you your YouTube channel and your website?
Yeah, website, they can contact me. They can contact me through Facebook. They can email me directly, Huey, Huey 576 at gmail.com. And or they can watch my videos and someplace on some of the videos I'll have contact information they can find me. But my YouTube channel, not real hard to find. Rev period Bill period Bill Rev Bill McDonald. I mean, and my Facebook page is Rev Bill McDonald.
Yeah,
And my YouTube channel or my Facebook page or my what is yeah, what's the other
yeah,
one? My website,
yeah,
Red Bill McDonald. So I'm not too creative. It's all the same, Red Bill McDonald. And if you go on just YouTube and put videos Red Bill McDonald, you'll probably find
yeah.
1,800 videos of different sizes and lengths.
Well,
Not
I
200 and something on my channel, but there's probably 15 to 1,800 out there on other people's.
Yes, that's how I found you. So I am going to make sure I have at least the links to your videos. Yes, I will do that. Make it easy. Thank you, and thank you, Reverend Bill. I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you
What's
for your service to not to just to the country, but to everybody that you're touching. So thank you.
Thank you.